Street scammers can spot a profitable tourist target from 100 feet away, and there are 6 specific behaviors they're trained to look for. You're probably doing at least 3 of them right now. In this video, I'll show you exactly how scammers choose their victims and how you can become completely invisible to them. Because once you understand how they think, you'll never look at a friendly stranger the same way again. Scammers evaluate potential targets in about 3 seconds. That's it. 3 seconds. They're looking for a very specific formula. Distraction plus unfamiliarity plus visible wealth equals target. By avoiding certain behaviors, you can essentially break this formula so they'll move on to easier prey. The first behavior that scammers absolutely love are travelers who are too polite or helpful. Scammers know that polite people won't make a scene, won't firmly say no, and won't just walk away. Your politeness literally becomes their profit. Let me give you 2 real examples of how this plays out. One time, my brother and I went to a beach in Cartagena, and a lady came up to us offering us beach massages. We politely told her no, but calling her persistent would be a huge understatement. While my brother was laying out on his towel, she literally squirted lotion all over his back, jumped on top of him, and started rubbing him down without his consent. And once you start getting rubbed, there's no turning back. They're gonna make a huge scene if you don't end up paying. Or there was also the time my wife Diane and I were in a small supermarket in Egypt, and the worker asked if we wanted to try a mango and proceeded to slice open a big juicy one for us before we had a chance to say no thank you. Admittedly, it was pretty yummy and he gave us some generous portions, but when we asked the price, it was 3 times what it should have been. And of course, nothing in this particular supermarket had any prices listed. These sneaky manipulations come in all shapes and sizes. And the solution is so simple that it can sometimes be hard. Just say no thank you and keep walking. Do not stop your feet and do not explain yourself. Explaining yourself is a huge mistake because they'll always latch onto something and just pull you in. And if someone ever touches you without your permission, loudly say no and step back. Don't be like my brother who just lazily said, "I don't want your massage, lady," while letting her continue massaging him anyways. I know this goes against everything we've been taught about being polite to strangers, but just remember, these people are counting on your politeness to take advantage of you. Behavior number 2 involves what you wear and how you act. When you walk around looking lost with a giant camera around your neck, a Hawaiian shirt, and a backpack with your flag plastered all over it, you're basically wearing a sign that says, "I don't know how things work here. I don't know what the prices should be, and I probably have money." Scammers see you coming a mile away. I learned this the hard way when we flew to Cambodia. I didn't do much research, so I was kind of clueless to the way things work there. Our hotel told us that they'd send a taxi to pick us up from the airport, so I didn't bother looking into all the logistics. When we arrived, a guy with a sign was waiting for us, and he walked us to this rundown looking rickshaw. I thought to myself, okay, this is Cambodia, I guess, and just jumped in and went with the flow. The driver was super friendly and asked us if we needed internet for our phones. He explained that most travelers do, and there wasn't a SIM card shop near the hotel, so he would stop for us along the way. And since I thought this guy actually worked for the hotel, I trusted whatever he said. I hadn't researched the exchange rate in Cambodia, I hadn't researched SIM card prices in Cambodia, and I was basically totally unprepared and just trusting in the goodness of strangers, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. This time it didn't. I bought a 30-day, 20 gigabyte cell phone plan that later I realized after the conversion costed me $40 US. The driver dropped us off at our hotel and everything was perfectly fine until the next day when my data ran out. The SIM card lady had sold me a 1-day plan instead of a 30-day plan, but I couldn't tell because all the messages were in a different language. And that driver didn't work for the hotel at all. The hotel had just flagged him off the street to go send him to the airport to pick us up. So basically I had no clue how to get back to that shop that sold me the eSIM. Lesson learned. Fast forward 2 years later and we got scammed again buying a physical SIM card in Brazil, and this time it required us to actually close our credit card and get a new one shipped to us because they kept charging our card monthly and we couldn't cancel. Fool me once? Okay. Fool me twice? All right, that's on me. But 3 times? No way. That's why now I've been using Olafly travel eSIMs for the past 4 years to get internet on my phone while I'm traveling. This allows me to set up a data plan on my phone all by myself from the comfort of my home and then have it work the second that I land in my destination. No wasting time hunting for local SIM cards in another language, no scams, no shenanigans. They offer unlimited data plans in over 200 destinations worldwide, so you never have to worry about running out of data when you need it the most. You pick the exact number of days of data for your trip trip instead of overpaying for fixed packages. And for long-term travelers like me, they have a monthly unlimited plan called Olafly Plans that you can cancel anytime. Whether you need a short or long-term plan, you can get a discount on Olafly eSIMs using the link in the description and discount code Project Untethered. Big thanks to our friends at Olafly for sponsoring this video. The bottom line is to always dress low-key so you blend in from a distance and have your data plan ready for you when you land. This lets you look up exchange rates, call an Uber, verify you're not being driven in circles by a taxi, or even contacting your hotel or Airbnb when you arrive late at night in the pouring rain and the doors are locked shut and you can't get inside, which has happened to us more times than I'd like to admit. Also, while you're preparing, don't forget to grab my free packing list tool. It generates a custom checklist based on your personal trip details so you don't forget anything important. Links in the description. The third behavior that makes you a target is trusting authority figures too quickly. Scammers know this and they exploit it ruthlessly. Examples. Imagine you're walking down the street, minding your own business, when someone in what looks like a police uniform approaches you. They say they need to see your passport or your wallet to check for counterfeit money. But the second you hand over that wallet, they're either going to steal something from it or they're going to demand a bribe to get your documents back. A version of this actually happened to me at a land border crossing in Nicaragua. A uniformed man approached me as I was getting off the bus and told me he needed my passport to fill out a form that the border agent would ask for. And what did naive Mitch do? He handed over his entire passport wallet. And when he gave me back my wallet and the form, I realized that a $20 bill was missing from it. I grabbed his wrist, pried open his fingers, took my $20, glared at him, and moved on. Another example of this happened to us all the time in Egypt when the temple guards would follow us around these temple sites, offering to show us these secret rooms or give us entry to the roped off no access areas. And once they get you to this random secret isolated room, they'll stand blocking the door, big old gun hanging from their hip, and ask for a tip. But it's not just police and guards that are the problem. When my wife was pregnant, she came down with dengue and had to go to the emergency room in Mexico. The doctor brought his own little credit card machine into our private hospital room to charge her for his doctor's fee, which was apparently separate from the hospital bill. It was our first days in the country. We didn't know how things worked or how much a doctor visit should cost, and we were exhausted from hours waiting around in the ER, so we just paid it. But after we got home, we realized that it was 5 times more than what it should have costed for a typical specialist visit. The fact that he insisted that we pay inside of our private room where the Wi-Fi signal was weak and the credit card transaction didn't want to go through, instead of stepping out a few steps into the lobby, now totally made sense. He didn't want anyone else to know what he was doing. So if you can't trust authority figures, then what do? Well, real police rarely will approach tourists on the street. If they do, you can say, I'd be happy to show you my ID at the police station. Never hand over your wallet or passport to a random person on the street. If you think it's a real police, you can hold it up for them to see, but don't hand it over to them. At tourist sites, ignore unsolicited help. And in medical situations, ask for an estimate up front if possible, and pay at the reception desk where normal people pay, not in private rooms. All right, this next behavior is probably the most relatable because everybody does this. You're at a beautiful landmark crowded with people, you pull out your phone, trying to get the perfect shot, but in that moment, you're completely vulnerable, distracted, and with valuables in your hand. Let's say a friendly local approaches you and offers to take a photo for you so you and your friend can be in the picture. Seems nice, right? You hand them your phone or your camera, they take a few steps back like they're framing the shot, and then they take off, disappearing into the crowds. But here's one that's even more clever. Someone approaches you and asks you to take a photo of them with their camera. They hand you their camera, you look through the viewfinder, press the button, and nothing happens. The camera's broken. And while you're standing there confused, trying to figure out why the camera isn't working, their accomplice is swiping your stuff that you set on the ground to take the picture. One small way to protect yourself in these crowded situations is to use a phone or camera wrist strap. This makes it harder to snatch. And before you reach out your arm to take that selfie, do a quick 360 sweep to see who is around you and who's watching. I won't say you should never hand your device to a stranger because I don't want to be paranoid here, but just be conscious about who you're handing it to. Traveling couples and families are usually the safest. And whenever someone asks you to take their photo, which they will, just be extra conscious of your stuff, especially if that camera happens to be broken. 99% of people are good and just generally want a favor, but it only takes one rotten apple with sticky fingers to ruin your trip. Behavior number 5 are travelers who just trust the process when it comes to money and paying. This is where scammers make their easiest money. You assume that ATM works correctly. You assume the cashier is ringing you up honestly. You assume that the waiter is bringing you the bill for the things that you actually ordered. Scammers are counting on relaxed tourists to make these assumptions. One assumption that can be costly in certain parts of the world is assuming that the restaurant has fixed menu prices. I've had multiple experiences where the prices on the menu when I ordered were different to the prices on the menu when it came time to pay. There were two versions of the menu. After falling for this a couple of times, I now like to take photos of the menu when I'm ordering or ask to keep the menu with me while I'm eating. Same goes for those money exchange places. I don't ever really exchange money because I always just get my local cash using my Charles Schwab free ATM card that reimburses my ATM fees worldwide. But if you ever do need to exchange money, watch out for this trick. One person that commented on one of my videos said that when they're in India, they saw on a sign that it said 86 rupees for €1. So he went inside, exchanged his money, got less than what he thought he should have. Then when he walked out to check the sign again, he saw that someone had swapped it so it said 68 rupees per euro instead of 86 rupees per euro. If he would have just trusted the process, he would have got majorly shortchanged. This type of trickery comes in many forms, but it can be prevented with one word: awareness. Stay alert. Don't go on autopilot, and recognize the patterns and warning signs that you learn from watching videos like this. So check your receipts, count your change, and most importantly, like and subscribe this video to stay updated with the latest tips to travel safer and smarter. The next behavior that attracts scammers is traveling alone or just overall appearing vulnerable. Most of these scams work on anyone, but they work especially well on solo travelers. You're outnumbered, easier to intimidate, and less likely to make a scene. But it gets even worse if you feel trapped. If you ever find yourself in an enclosed space or isolated location, scammers know that they have you at their mercy. Think about that solo traveler who gets invited into a shop for some free tea, but then gets intimidated into buying stuff. When you're inside their shop, you're surrounded by their people. Maybe there's 2 or 3 guys blocking the door. You feel pressure to buy something or pay whatever they're asking just because you want a way to get out of there. This happened to me in Cali, Colombia, when a street vendor invited me up into an isolated room to try on more styles of basketball shorts that I was looking for. When I came out of the changing room, 3 of his friends were blocking the doorway. He asked for triple the street price, and I literally had to push myself through him to leave. Then there's the even scarier story of a travel writer named Mike who basically got abducted in his taxi in Tunisia. The driver flew past his hotel into the desert and started demanding money. Luckily, Mike had registered his plans with the US State Department, and he had his phone with data on it, so he was sharing his location with a friend. He called his friend, telling him to call the US Embassy if this driver didn't immediately turn around, and thankfully the driver gave in and complied. After hearing that story, I always use rideshare apps instead of calling taxis off the street, even if it means waiting longer. And if there happens to be no rideshares available, I always share my location with my wife whenever I get into a street taxi. This is another reason why it's handy to have an eSIM set up on your phone as soon as you land, in case you need to make an emergency call using apps like Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp. Don't get me wrong, traveling solo is awesome, but you really need to learn how to trust your gut. If something feels off, leave immediately. Don't worry about being polite. Your safety is more important than whatever person's feelings. And if you ever find yourself in an isolated area, be conscious not to let yourself get cornered. If you feel trapped, make noise. Scream, yell, draw attention. Scammers do not want attention. The second you make a scene, they'll usually back off. And don't even get me started about scams in airports. They give travelers a false sense of security, but in reality, there's 9 specific moments in the airport where thieves know you're most vulnerable. I break down all 9 and how to protect yourself in this video, so watch it next to avoid becoming an easy target. Like, subscribe, do the things. Love you.